So what's up, you guys? How you guys doing? Back with another podcast. We're gonna be talking about some Spurs. Go Spurs, go! All right, let's get into this. All
Okay.
right, what's up, you guys? How you guys doing? We back with another episode of Brandon Ruckus Podcast. I am your host, Davon. This is a sports podcast, but we also talk about music. Right now, I got Trey John of the No Disrespect But podcast. So, what's up? What up, though? How you doing?
What's up, man? Look, I'm happy. I'm always happy when folks are getting into the podcast space, and so we've talked a lot of sports on Twitter, and so it's really good to be a guest on the show. But I look forward to all the content you're gonna put out and how you're talking about different sports teams. But I love the whole music concept too because I think that's a lost art. So to hear, what's your viewpoints on certain music out, man? I'm looking forward to getting a new twist because I feel like we don't uh, get much things out, like different art forms. So to hear music gonna be a part of this, that's exciting. But man, happy to be a part of this episode. Like Devon mentioned, I'm the host of the No Disrespect But podcast, where hey, we talk sports, but we try to do it in a respectful manner. Because if you look on sports television, you don't see too much of that. I think everybody's looking for a hot take and to have the last word. And so we want to just talk to folks and talk about our topics in a respectful manner, and we can kind of have a conversation whether we agree with each other or not at the end of the day. And I also want to shout out my boy Tate Visuals. We do a podcast every Wednesday, the Bayou Boys podcast, where we just strictly cover NFL and NBA on that one. So got to shout my boy out there too.
That's what's up, though. That's how we try to do it over here too. We're not trying to do too much hot takes. Just keep it real. You don't always gotta talk about people or be disrespectful to make your point. But yeah, we talk about music too. So what type of music you listen to right now? What you got right in your trunk?
Oh man, look, I have a range of music, man. It goes from hip hop, old school hip hop, Biggie, Tupac, and those guys to I might have some Amy Winehouse bumping in that thing. Um,
I feel that.
I might have a little country, Florida, Georgia line. So I'm all over. I'm always open to different music. So I don't really discriminate. I mean, maybe no screamo, but other than that, I think I'm pretty good, man. But yeah, I think the last song I listened to was Valerie by Amy Winehouse. So that was the last one on the playlist.
Hey, Amy Winehouse is kind of slept on. I ain't gonna lie. She
Man, look,
I really listen to though. But yeah,
for
we talk about
sure.
Texas boys. My girl, she's from Texas, from Houston. But right now we're gonna talk
Okay.
about San Antonio. What about them Spurs? Today was media day. How do you feel about what's going on there?
Man, you know what? I feel a whole lot better this year than I did last year. And last year, I think they were just trying to go through the motions, saying, yeah, we're here to learn, but we want to win. And we want to win right away. And I think anybody that was realistic about the Spurs roster and the direction we knew last year was, hey, we got Victor Wembanyama. We want to win some games, develop a culture of winning, but we understand that we aren't there yet as a team. But hopefully, we'll be there soon. And I think a lot of fans thought, hey, this is going to be a 2 to 3 year process. But what I did love is that Victor kind of held, feet to the fire and saying, hey, I don't want to be a loser much longer. I want to win. And if there's a pathway for us to start building that aspect of our team and organization again, let's get it started. And so you go out and get Chris Paul in free agency. You draft Stephon Castle out of UConn, coming from a winning program. You see guys like Keldon Johnson get a little bit smaller, shed some weight. So now he's going to be more of a wing, but still keeping that power. Hopefully, you're hoping Devin Vassell, who I believe is our second best player, to Wimby. Hopefully he gets healthy. I think he's going to miss the first week or two of the season,
Mhm.
recovering from an off-season surgery. But man, today it was really just about setting expectations of, hey, we see ourselves in the playoffs this year. And I love they said playoffs and not play in. Because a lot of teams, especially rebuilding teams, they say, well, we can get a play-in spot and try to see where it happens. But I think not only do the Spurs see themselves as a playoff team, I do believe they see themselves as a team that can make some noise in the playoffs. Love Chris Paul coming in. That's a guy that's going to bring one veteran leadership. You probably saw me on Twitter every now and then saying I felt like the Spurs were the least intelligent team in the NBA, just with some of the bonehead turnovers, or if Victor was hot and not getting him the ball. And I think a guy like Chris Paul, he's going to come in. One, we're not going to have any issues with how is it difficult to get a guy at 7'4" the ball. I think that is erased now with Chris Paul, and I think him at the point guard position, he's going to make Trey Jones much better. I think he's going to make Stephon Castle better. And I think he'll even help Devin Vassell evolve as a playmaker too, and not just be a scoring threat. So I'm looking forward to what he's going to bring to our team. I know he's going to be no nonsense. I'm hoping he can stay healthy throughout the year. I know that's been an issue for him the past few seasons, but if he can stay healthy for us, I can see the Spurs maybe vying for sixth seed or so. I won't go crazy and put him in the top four of the West right now. I think there's still a lot of teams that are much better, but um, it's a long season. Anything can happen. I can tell you right now, I didn't have the Minnesota Timberwolves making to the conference finals last year, and they were one of the surprise darlings for the NBA season. So anything is possible, right?
No, I definitely feel that. Talking about Chris Paul, man. Like, I'm not gonna lie, Chris Paul always been like my favorite point guard. Just
Yeah.
of his era. It's just crazy to see him finally go to like a good organization because, I mean, I feel like Chris Paul, he probably would have won a ring if he didn't go to different organizations like the Clippers. Like the Clippers are better now, but
Hmm.
he brought that team up. And like the Rockets, I mean, they are right of organization, but they're
Yeah.
not an organization like the Spurs is known for winning championships after
Hmm.
championships after championships. But speaking of Chris Paul, you mentioned him. He's going to help out the young guys. Today
Hmm.
during media day, he talked about helping out. Well, Devin Vassell talked about how much Chris Paul has been helping them out already. So, you want to speak more about that playmaking more? Do you think it's gonna, you know, what do you see more with Devin Vassell and Chris Paul? What do you think their dynamic is going to be like?
Yeah, I mean, those are going to be our two lead guards. And I think, down the stretch, you're going to need Devin to be aggressive both as a scorer and as a passer. I just think great things happen for us when we're running action between Devin Vassell and Victor Wembanyama. Of course, Chris Paul is going to be a part of things, and I think he's going to make a life easier for a lot of players, not just Victor or Devin, but even Jeremy Sohan being in that dunker spot and being able to get good looks. But um, I'm more so wanting, if it makes sense, Chris CP3 to kind of have the effect on Devin Vassell that he had on SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, where you got a guy who's more of a scorer, but is going to be a guy that has the ball in his hand a lot of possessions, and kind of instilling that confidence. And SGA, credits CP3 for a lot of what he is today, of having someone in his corner, challenging him to be better, challenging him to take and maximize those opportunities to be that lead guard. And so I'm hoping, Devin Vassell can take that next leap. Look, Chris Paul doesn't have 5 to 10 years left in his career. We know this is probably going to be a 1 year type of thing. And so
Yeah.
whatever he can instill in our guys in the time that we have him, I hope we're able to maximize that. And Victor and Devin are going to have to be the guys that utilize that leadership that CP3 has the most, because I think if we're ever going to get back to championship glory, those are going to be the two guys leading the way for us. And so, I think that's the next step for Devin. I think he's grown a lot as a scorer, getting to his spots, both at the 3-point line and in the mid range. I do want to see him grow as a passer, and I want to see him grow getting to the line. And we know Chris Paul, those shifty ways to get to the free throw line. So I'm hoping that's one area that he picks up on, because the more we can stop the clock, get to the free throw line, knock those down, and be able to set our defense with a perimeter threat like Jeremy Sohan on defense. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama in the post, and what he can be able to do as a defender protecting the rim. So the more we're able to set our defense, the better we'll be. Because I think there was with some of the wins we did have last year, I think is when we devoted to the defensive side of the ball. And then we were able to run out of transition with some of those things. That's when we were at our best. So I'm looking forward to a lot of growth in that aspect, especially from Devin.
I feel that. I know I'm looking for. I can't watch Spurs a lot just because of time difference. Sometimes it's hard for me
Yeah.
to watch it, but I can't wait to see Chris Paul to Wemby oops. Like Chris Paul, man, he always been that dude in the pick and roll alley oops. I always wanted him and Dwight to get on teams together, but sadly that never happened. But Chris
Well,
Paul with another dominant center, it's gonna be nasty. So
yeah, man. And I will say Chris Paul will live in the mid range. With us, I think that's one of the things we've been missing at the point guard position. Obviously, Devin is really good at that, but because he's such a focal point on our offense, there's still a way that defenders defend him to try to take that away too. But I think that was where Trey Jones probably was a liability sometimes on offense. Was that when defenses decided to try to take away the live threat of Wemby, we needed that guy to take that mid-range jumper or even take that three-pointer. And that's one thing I think Trey is going to grow in his game. But we were a really good team with him on the floor in our starting lineup. Projection-wise, had he been the starter from the beginning of the year, the Spurs would have vied for a playing spot last year. And so one of the things I really like is that we have an elite guard and distributor in Chris Paul in our starting lineup. And now you get a guy like Trey Jones, who's a elite guy in his own right, much like his brother Tyus in terms of assist to turnover ratio. Now he can lead that second unit because I felt like when we put him in the starting lineup last year, we lost what we had on the bench and somebody to run that offense. And we tried to get, Blake Wesley, Malachi Branham, but those are guys that are more so scores. That's their mindset right now. And for their development, I want to keep them there. And so now having Trey Jones be a part of that second unit and maybe even having some spot minutes with a guy like Victor or a guy like Devin or even Keldon, I think that's going to be really big. I think you're going to see the Spurs get back to some of those bench units that they were known for, where they were deep, and so I'm hoping that with Trey Jones leading that second unit, maybe having a guy like Zach Collins be your big in that rotation. I'm hoping we can do some good things and have some really good basketball going on in San Antonio.
no, I feel that for real. I was thinking about that, like just seeing the Spurs going back to their old ways. But even during
Mm,
the media day, you heard Chris Paul, or not Chris Paul, but Pop. He said that Harrison Barnes was kind of like a Avery Johnson, and he said that also the Victor kind of remind him of a David Robson type. So do you
yeah.
feel like the Spurs are getting back to their old ways? Do you feel like it's some type of similarities with the historical Spurs until like nowadays? Do you feel like their time is coming?
Yeah, man, I do, and that starts with the team. I feel like these guys on the team they want to play for each other. And look, we know from an organization standpoint, the the mindset wasn't to win right away with Victor. It was to take time, let him grow, not let winning be the main focus right away. Let him grow as a player, figure out what he wants to do. And I think now he's in a position where he's comfortable with that, and we can move forward with that. And when it comes to winning and having that mindset to actually win games and not try to, coast through the air, maybe get a good lottery spot. I trust no one in the history of this game more than I do Greg Popovich.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to start to see him get back to his old ways of coaching circles around some of these guys. So I do see flashes of the team I knew growing up that made me a Spurs fan. Obviously, they got to go out there and prove it, right? But one thing that stands out like a guy like Keldon, he's giving me shades of Manu, a guy that easily could start on the team, be one of the better players on the team, right? And is one of the better players on the team.
Yeah.
But sacrificing that role and him kind of going to the bench last year, I think maybe an off season, if we can keep that as a part of the development, I think he's a guy that can wreak havoc as a member of our second unit and playing starter minutes. Obviously, Wimby, shoot, he's a mix of David Robinson and Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
And I think he's not afraid to be a leader. That was one of the things that Tim Duncan did. I mean, rookie year, already making it to the playoffs, and then year two getting to a championship and winning one and being the best player on the championship team. While he was a quiet guy, I think he led with his actions, and I think that's what Wimby is. I think he's a guy that's going to lead with his actions, and he doesn't always have to be the vocal guy. And I think there are guys like Keldon, Devin, even Jeremy, and obviously Chris Paul. They're going to be guys that lead vocally, but also by example. And you mentioned Harrison Barnes, and I didn't know what to think too much about the acquisition there. But what I do know about Harrison Barnes is he's a guy that's been a part of a winning culture, both in college at North Carolina and being a part of what Golden State built. I
Yeah.
think we don't like to give him credit for those championship teams, but he was a big part of that. He was the draft pick 7th overall that really got Golden State buzzing when Steph was kind of dealing with his injuries and Clay wasn't unknown. So he doesn't get as much respect as he deserves for the Golden State run. And what he was able to do with Sacramento. I mean, he goes to a team, nobody has any expectations of Sacramento, and these guys become perennial playoff contenders by the end of his tenure. And so I'm hoping he can bring that level of leadership. Obviously, the defense he can bring, he's a guy that allows Wimby to play and start at the 5, as opposed to having to play the power forward position and us trying to force Zach Collins or Charles Bassey to play the center. Will we see actions and moments where they're playing together? Sure, but I would much rather Wimby start at the 5, and I think a guy like Harrison Barnes that can guard, between the 2 and the 4 positions will help a lot with that. So.
No, I definitely feel that too. Like Harrison Barnes, I didn't think he's gonna go to the Spurs. I didn't even think
Either.
he's going anywhere. Like it's crazy that they got someone of his stature, and like you said, he's one he really is slept on because a lot of people look at these big names. They might look at like DeMar DeRozan went to the Kings. Might look at him like, oh, it's such a great upgrade. But Harrison Barnes does a lot of the dirty work stuff that's not necessarily on stat sheets. Like he's gonna guard. I can't say the best person, but he's gonna be, to me, Harrison Barnes always been like a glue guy. Like, and to me, I
Yeah.
don't know, it's my softness. I love glue guys because like they're not this guy, not the flashy name or anything like that. But what they're gonna do is most likely is gonna
Mhm.
play some defense, make open shots, and that's exactly what Harrison Barnes does. And he might even play make a little bit too, though, because people slip on that too. Because
Yeah.
Harrison Barnes, I'm not gonna say he like Chris Paul stature, but he probably throw some lobs the Wemby or just get some nice passes to Vassell. But I really think that's gonna be a slept on pickup right there. Well, I
Yeah,
also
for
want to ask you
sure.
too, what do you think Jeremy Sohan? What do you think his hairstyle gonna be opening night?
Man, look, if you have a better chance of asking me the lotto numbers than what Jeremy's hairstyle is going to become opening night. Because, I mean, he is definitely a character. And I mean, that's one of the things fans like myself love about him. But the way he translates that into being a productive player in this league. So I'm excited to see, how he brings things out. He says he's going to switch up the hairstyles a little bit more often this year. So it'll be fun watching that. But man, I'm so excited about this guy. Last year, kind of thrust into a role, excuse me, that he wasn't supposed to play. They said, "Hey, we're going to start you at point guard." And so for the first 30 plus games, he was trying, and it just wasn't working. And I think we eventually, put Trey Jones in the lineup, and we started seeing him be more of that extra pass guy, can be in that dunker spot, make some open corner threes, and obviously focus a lot more on the defensive end. So I'm looking forward to what he brings to this team because. From a playmaking standpoint, I think he'll be the secondary playmaker to a Chris Paul within our
Mhm.
starting lineup because you're going to want Devin to at least focus a lot more on scoring. You're going to want Harrison Barnes to make some open shots from the corner 3. And obviously, you got to get Victor involved offensively in what they do there. So, obviously, excited to see how he grows offensively. But defense is going to be his calling card. And now that we're starting to add some offensive pieces, that's even more of an opportunity for him to focus on the defensive side of the ball, be a menace, go out and guard the opposing team's best player every single night, regardless of their position. And so I'm excited about how he takes that year three leap. And I think he's going to be a big component to what we are able to achieve this year.
No, I had to ask you about him because, like, I don't know, when he first got to the league, I thought he was kind of weird at first. I didn't know he was
Oh, he is.
foreign, so I just heard his talk, and I was like, "Dang, this dude, why is he?" It almost sounded like he's talking like a baby, or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
where's his accents come from? But I don't know. He's someone who kind of grew on me. I'm like, all right, I kind of like this kid. He's kind of almost remind me of Dennis Rodman. I don't know if it's the hair
yeah,
or it's what, but he does remind me of Dennis Rodman in a way. Not as crazy, but just like kind of play the same position, want to play defense, and then
yeah.
just it probably
Get
is
under
just
your
like,
skin.
oh, yeah, light skinned dude, but I don't know. I just kind of rock with him. But I do think that experiment with him playing point guard, I mean, I understand him trying it, but to me, I never thought that was gonna work out. So it's good. Like
Mhm,
it brings someone like Chris Paul in, a real point guard, instead of him trying to play, this
mhm,
guy point guard. But you mentioned the core of Vassell, Jones, Johnson, of course, Wimby, and all of them, and
mhm.
also some of them come off the bench as well, like it's
Yeah.
Jones and Johnson. Do you think the Spurs should keep this young core? You think it's too soon, or do you think that they still need to develop a little bit more?
Um, I think they try to at least keep the young core for the next couple of years. I know we just brought Chris Paul in, but there was a lot of buzz around a Trey Young coming to the team, and I think that's still very much in play. Um, Wimby is a big fan of his, and I believe they want to play together at some point in time. But obviously, Atlanta's trying to do some, reconvening and building around Trey Young. And so maybe they do enough in Atlanta to where he says, "Hey, I want to end my career here." But the Spurs have a ton of picks, and that's very valuable in terms of acquiring some star talent. And so I think right now we're in the hey, let's try to get that playoff experience phase. And then I think that next step is that championship level phase. And who are the guys currently on the roster that can be a part of that? And who are the guys that maybe we have to part with, regardless of how long they've been here, how much we love them. And so I think guys like Keldon Johnson fall in that category. I think guys like Trey Jones, guys like Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, they kind of fall in that category right now. And the Spurs are in a prime position to even get another top pick just because of the amount of picks that they have. So I would say 2025 is when they kind of go big game hunting and try to get a star, so to speak, to truly form a big three between Wimby, Devin, and whoever that star might be. And obviously, you have a guy like I think Jeremy is another untouchable that kind of stays just because of how important he is to both ends of the floor for this team and allowing his teammates to do some of the things that they're great at because of what he brings to them, as a connector on offense, but obviously as an elite defender. So to answer your question, I don't know yet, but I do think there will be changes. Unless the crew just kind of gets it together and you just feel like, hey, we can't let this core group go. But I think eventually you're going to have to start making some decisions. Wemby is going to be up to be paid soon. Trey Jones is going to be looking for a new contract. Jeremy should be getting a contract in the next year or two as well. Devin and Keldon, they have really favorable deals that are tradable. So you really have to start thinking about who are the guys with Wimby moving forward and live with that decision, whatever it ends up being.
No, I know even one in the lollipop, lollipop, lollipop. Man, I don't know if you seen the meme or not, but they said Trey Young looked like a lollipop with hair on it. And
It
ever since I
does.
seen
I
that
did
meme,
see that.
like I can't get it out of my head. Like, so I hear Trey Young, I just think about a lollipop with hair on it. But
Yeah, and,
yeah,
the thing with Trey Young, man, is what I feel like, and one of the reasons why I said I feel like Devin needs to grow as a playmaker as well is what Trey Young brings as a passer, obviously making everybody around him better, but his ability to get 30 and 12 every night. Um, You kind of need those types of guards in this league to win. And so we still don't have that on the roster at the point guard position. We know Chris Paul will be able to get you the assists. We know Trey Jones can do that, but we still don't have a guy at the point guard position that can just take games over. I love Wemby. I think he's our best player. He's going to be one of the best players in the league. But we see time and time again that you have to have a guard, especially at the point guard position, that can take games over. As great and phenomenal as Nikola Jokic is, Jamal Murray is the guy that needs to rise up in the playoffs to lead them to a championship, right? As great as Joel Embiid is, they're looking at a guy like Tyrese Maxey to take that next step to be someone that, hey, Joel relies on guards to get him the ball, but you're someone that has the ball in your hands every play. You don't need someone to draw up sets to get you the ball. So I think that's the next step for the Spurs team, and so that's why like a guy like Trey Young naturally comes to mind when you think of the type of guard we need, and maybe somebody like Stephon Castle, who obviously wants to play point guard at this level. Maybe that's the step he takes and becomes that for our team, but right now, I'm just kind of looking at proven guys, so to speak, and not so much guys that have to develop into that.
No, I definitely feel that. Speaking of Stefan Castle, you want to speak a little bit on him? I haven't watched much college, but what do you think he's going to bring as a rookie coming to the league?
Oh man, he's going to bring defense first and foremost. I think he's one of the better defenders coming into the league, and so we're definitely going to grow that. We're going to grow his ball handling and his perimeter shooting a little bit. Has a little bit of a slow release. Can hit the three, but not quite as consistent yet. But it's going to be a guy that's athletic as well. So I think when he first comes, I think he's going to be a guy that's a pretty tight defender. We're going to put him on a lot of assignments. And he's going to be big in the sense that, maybe that's something that Devin doesn't have to necessarily take on as much as we've tried to ask him to. But, as your role grows on offense more, your defense suffers. And so if your defense is going to suffer with Devin Vassell, maybe having a guy like Stephon Castle to eventually step into that lead guard role next to him is going to be beneficial. And someone you can trust to take on some of the phenomenal guards in the NBA. But right now, I think he's going to learn. I think he's going to have an opportunity to play right away, unlike some of the rookies in the past, where you say, hey, might see some spot duty here, but we're going to send him to Austin. I don't think this is a guy that spends a great deal of time down with the Austin Spurs. I think this is a guy that spends quite a while with the active roster, getting some meaningful minutes, and growing. So I'm excited to see what he can become. I've seen some good things with UConn, and like I said, I value guys that come from winning organizations because it's just a mindset. I think there's certain intangibles that are instilled in these guys that translate to the next level. And so I'm hoping he can kind of bring what he learned at UConn and obviously playing for one of the best coaches of all time, one of the best organizations of all time. And that's just a perfect marriage of the two. So I'm excited mainly what he can bring for us because, I mean, it's a clean slate on what you can bring to this team. And I think that's probably one of the most exciting things about us this year. I think everybody's looking to figure out where they fit in. Some of the guys from last year know where they fit in. When it comes to Victor, I think last year was trying to figure out roles, guys that had been the guy for some of our rebuilding years, still trying to figure out how they navigate with a guy like Victor Wembanyama. And so Stefan's been saying all the right things. From what I hear, he's been doing all the right things coming into the year. And so I'm just excited to see him play early and often and how he progresses throughout the season because he can be a real big player for us going forward.
No, I definitely feel that. I thought
Hmm.
I thought he was gonna go to Charlotte. So in my mind, I always feel like he's in Charlotte.
Yeah.
But yeah, under the pops system, he might be something nice. But also, how do you feel about them trading away Dillingham? Because I feel they should have kept him. Maybe him and Dillingham and Wimby could have been a nice little, 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I mean, when they initially drafted him, I was excited. I was like, "Oh crap! Like we got one of the best guards, in the country, and obviously, his ability to score." But when I kind of thought about the long term, of what we were trying to do, it made sense. Look, we have a ton of picks, and I think we need to be smart with that and smart with the amount of contracts we have, especially with this whole second apron thing, and us being able to, offload Rob Dillingham, get an extra pick for I don't know a kid that's in middle school right now.
Yeah,
It turns out good because here's the thing. It ended up ruining a Western or a team that was becoming a Western Conference powerhouse in that you have a Rob Dillingham on your roster now in Minnesota, and you start to approach that second apron, and now you have to start looking at, okay, who do we have to get rid of? And you end up getting rid of a Carl Anthony Towns and shipping him off to New York. So, in a way, we hurt a potential competitor and peer in the Western Conference while um, I still think making ourselves better. We're
no,
still in prime position to draft somebody really high in next year, well, in the next few drafts, to be quite honest. And so it wasn't a must that we keep a Rob Dillingham. Especially granted, we got Chris Paul, we got Stephon Castle, you got Trey Jones, you have Malachi Branham, and you have Blake Wesley. So we were kind of getting a little crowded at the guard position anyway. So it's all worked out. It would have been nice though, and especially because the guy said he loved San Antonio, wanted to play with Victor, but
yeah,
it is what it is. I just hope he doesn't end up being one of those. I have a list of should have been a Spur,
yeah.
and so usually guys that are on that list tend to haunt us at some point in time in their career. So I hope he doesn't end up being one of those guys.
No, I definitely feel that, man. I thought you actually was gonna go there, but it is what it is. But before we get out of here, I do want to talk about Wemby. He added on like
Yeah,
25 pounds. Like, what do you feel like his next steps are? He's
so they say
already
I gotta see him.
he said what?
I said I gotta see him because they say he was like, I gotta see him. I don't know what 235 looks like on him, but I gotta
Yeah,
see it for myself to make sure that they're not fibbing. Like I need to see him on the scale and the numbers saying what it is. But um man, what I'm expecting to see from him, I gotta see some improvement. One, um, I think every great player has their go tos. Obviously Kareem had the sky hook. Timmy had the bank shot, and then being on the left block and being able to get to his right hand and kind of get that hook and a little push shot, or Lamarcus Aldridge having that fadeaway. I think he needs to start figuring out what are my go to moves that I know I can always go into. I obviously want to see if he's stronger. I want to see him be able to post up a little bit more and maintain his position, not get pushed out to the free throw line and 3-point line. I do want him to take a little bit more 3-pointers when they're permitted. I want to see him improve there. But I think the main thing for him is I want to see that strength and ability to get to his spot, take care of the ball. I think sometimes he was a little bit sloppy with the ball, so I want to see that. I want to see his conditioning because there were times where he's getting used to the NBA game and he gets winded, and so I want to see him be able to play longer stretches in games. Um, and and I would say I want to see him continue to improve as a passer. That was one of the things I liked about him coming in. Thought he did well with his international team in France, being a playmaker. His French coach actually came out last year and said, "Hey, like you need to be better passing the ball. Like you're not doing well." And so that was something Wimby took to heart. So I want to see how he does as a playmaker for his teammates because guys are going to get really great shots off of his presence alone. He needs to be able to figure out how to navigate that and navigate double and triple teams because they are coming. And he struggled with that a little bit last year. So there are a few things I want to see him improve on, but those are the main things: strength, passing out of double and triple teams, and making plays for others, and just finding spots. I just felt like last year it was just truly a big experiment. I want to see him have a plan offensively, if that makes sense, of how he wants to get his buckets. And defensively, keep doing what you're doing. To be quite honest, I think he's phenomenal there. Just keep doing what you're doing, and maybe we can get a defensive player of the year this year.
he should have won it this year. I ain't gonna lie. I'm like,
I agree.
don't get me started on Rudy Gobert. Like, I never really was a fan of Rudy Gobert, but that's a different topic. But I do want to get you out of here. But you mentioned something I do want to bring up before we get out of here. You
Yeah.
mentioned him being international in the Olympics. How do you think that's
hmm
going to transpire? With the Spurs, how do you think that's going to make him actually, improve the team a bit?
I think it's going to help improve the team. Well, I think he did some things last or during this past Olympics, getting some experience. Again, playing more basketball. You can never not play enough basketball as an up and coming player in the NBA, and so I think he learned some good things, especially defensively. I think he showed that if we do put the right big next to him, what he can do. Because him and Rudy did play well together in stretches.
Yeah,
So I think there's going to be moments where we try to add another big. Because long term goal, I don't think they want Wimby playing the five, but he's just our best chance at winning games right now at that position.
yep,
Um, but that's some of the things I think he'll bring. Just being around some veteran guys on the French national team, playing against Team USA. Hopefully, he's working on his recruiting skills because that's like the hub of all the best players in the world. And so being able to utilize that and maybe kind of say, hey, maybe you should draft this up and coming guy on an international team, or hey, this is a guy I had a conversation with, and there's an opportunity for him to be a Spur. I want him to be a little bit more involved. He is our best player, and I want him to be more involved with some of the front office things. I think we're not the team. While we're starting to look in some ways like the team of old, one thing I don't want is our best player not being a part of the conversation in terms of who we're bringing in to make things better for him. And so I hope he takes on that challenge as the face of our franchise too.
I definitely feel it. I definitely feel like Spurs is one of them teams. Like, of course, people looking at them because of Wemby, but they have other pieces like the Vassels and everything, and they're definitely coming. Just that, they're still young right now. Like, how old is Wemby? Is he even
Mhm.
21 yet? Is he 20?
Nope.
Yeah, he's still super
Nope.
young. Like,
It's
yeah,
20, I think. Yeah, he's still super young.
yeah, like that team is coming. But I'm glad you got on here. Want you to plug again, plug everything you have right now before we get out of here. Plug in your podcast and tell everybody where to reach you at.
Yeah, man. Well, look, you can always reach me at Future NBA Gov, and one of these things, this team isn't just my favorite team; it's a team that I'm going to be an NBA governor of. So it's bigger than just being a fan for me. So excited about that point in my life when that happens, and hopefully it happens fairly soon. But love my Spurs. Definitely catch me every Tuesday on the No Disrespect But podcast. Give me a follow on YouTube. You can find the podcast Twitter at But Disrespect on Twitter or X, or you can follow my personal page at Future NBA Gov. So it's at Future NBA Gov on X. Also, you can catch Bayou Ballers podcast every Wednesday. We're on YouTube as well, but we also go live on Twitter, man. So catch me and my boy Tay Visuals. But obviously, stay tuned to Bring the Ruckus. My boy Devon knows his stuff. Especially in the NBA spaces, man, we have great conversations when it comes to ball. And like I said, the guys bringing a whole new dynamic. You never hear sports and music, and to say that that's two art forms that are married to each other, that we don't bring them together in the same conversation is insane. So this guy, bringing a whole new dynamic to the landscape, to the podcast game, you got to get in right now. You want to be, 5 years down the line when this guy's on ESPN or something. You want to say, hey, I was there at Bring the Ruckus when this guy first started. So make sure you're a part of this ride, man, and support this guy any way you can. Like, subscribe, follow, engage with him, because as a fellow podcaster, we love when the fans and the viewers engage. Let us know what you like about the content putting out, but also the content you want to see. Because at the end of the day, if we ain't doing it for y'all and giving y'all some enjoyment out here, we're doing it for the wrong reasons. So make sure y'all follow Bring the Ruckus, man.
No, I appreciate that. And when you get them tickets, I mean, when you get in your government mode, I want some tickets. I'm not gonna lie, I want to see Wimby.
All
I'll
right.
come down to
Hey, I
Texas. Ain't
got
no.
you, bro.
No, I
I got
appreciate
you.
you being on here, and yeah, peace, man. Now we gotta go out and watch wrestling. Like I
Peace.
said, it's Monday. Raw's coming on. About to hear my girl scream, but you know, she's definitely a wrestling fan too. That's why I said that. But yeah, all right,
Yeah,
peace, man.
baby. Peace, brother.